It's like toothpaste, Viagra, and aspirin.
That's right, all in one.
Yeah.
So, well, let's walk in here.
Peter wants to show me perhaps the most ghoulish aspect of Islamic medicine, surgery.
Here you have like a wonderful illustration. It appears that this is the first anatomical illustration in history. Like you see it says adala, which means muscle. And so these are like the different muscles which move the eyelids.
So it was understood then that the muscles controlled the...
Oh, absolutely.
The lens in the eye.
Yeah, and move the eyelid and stuff like that. So the other thing which we have here, which is really nice, is I think we have some, like ophthalmological instruments. For instance, a hook could be used, for instance, like to kind of pull back your eyelid, that sort of thing. I mean, these instruments were very useful to the doctor.
Although these tools might look crude, eye surgery was one of Islamic medicine's great successes. One innovation was to improve an older technique for curing cataracts called couching, which in their hands had a success rate of over 60%.
In a living subject, the cornea would be clear and you'd be able to see the pupil clearly with the cataract sitting behind the pupil, the wide opacity.
To see how couching stands the test of time, I'm meeting up with eye surgeon Mr. Vic Sharma.
Right, the cataract is the lens inside the eye, which sits behind the pupil. As with time, with age, the lens gets cloudier and cloudier, and that's what is referred to as a cataract.
I've brought along a replica of a medieval couching knife and a description of the treatment by Al-Bukhasis, which is the Latin name for the great 10th century Islamic surgeon Al-Zahrawi.
He says you take the couching needle in your right hand, if it be the left eye, and so on, and then thrust the needle firmly in, at the same time rotating it with your hand until it penetrates the white of the eye, and you feel the needle has reached something empty. So he's talking about how to dislodge.
Exactly.
So, I mean, maybe you can show me. We've got some eyes here.
Yep. And I'll certainly give it a shot, and what they would have done would have attempted to go in just by the white of the eye, just at the edge where the cornea is. And then what they are attempting to do is to sweep around, trying to break all those ligaments of that lens and trying to get the lens to drop away from the pupil to allow more light to enter in through the pupil and to brighten the subject's vision.
But of course you haven't got the capacity to focus.
Oh yeah, you haven't got a lens now, so that was a big problem until people started compensating that with specs later on.
Right. What is your feeling about how advanced and successful?
Well, they were on the general ballpark. They were at the right place. They were trying to remove the cataract away from the visual axis.
They understood the anatomy of the eye.
They had some understanding of the anatomy of the eye, and that the lens was behind the pupil, and that's what was causing the visual loss. And so removing that, and that general principle is still the same.
Right.
And there are still accounts of it being used in certain parts of the world presently.
Looking back at medieval Islamic medicine with modern scientific eyes is frustrating. They take as true many things we know to be nonsense. But on the other hand, their desire to deal with this vast subject logically and systematically is admirable and truly marks a break with the past. One Islamic scholar, more than any other, embodies the synthesis of religion, faith and reason. His name was Ibn Sina, or Avicenna as he's known in the West. He was a polymath who clearly thrived in intellectual and courtly circles. In 1025, he completed this, Al-Qanun fil Tib, or the Canon of Medicine. In it, Ibn Sina collated and expanded on all that had gone before him, medical ideas from Greece to India, and turned them into a single work.
So how would you place this book in a historical context?
Oh, it's hugely important. I mean, there are a few books which are as important as the canon, because what this encyclopedia does, it kind of, sweeps away everything else. It becomes a textbook. It supersedes a lot of other texts, and people even complain that, it's so good, it's so tightly organized, it's so easily accessible that people forget to read the Greek sources and Arabic translations. this whole first book, this is the first book, contains what we call the kulliyat, the general principles. So it's all about how the human body works, you know, how diseases work in general. The second book contains diseases, what we sometimes call from tip to toe, like from tip to toe. So he starts with the diseases of the head, and then he moves down, like the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and he normally they end up at the sexual organs, you see.
At first sight, the sheer ambition of the 3 volumes is hugely impressive. Here's an attempt at diagnosis and cure for diseases as diverse as depression, meningitis, and smallpox. And there's even detailed chapters on more common problems.
So, like for instance, here you have like headaches.
So different kinds of headaches.
في العلاج الصداع الحادث عن الروائح الطيبة. So headaches caused by pleasant, fragrant smells.
And then he's also got الحادث من الخمار, so hangovers.
Jima. You can get headache from sex.
Is that right?
Well, I mean, hasn't happened to me yet, but I mean, you know. Let's see. So, the treatment of headache caused by sex. ويجب لمن يعتريه ذلك عقب الجماع وبامتلاء أن يبدأ بالفست. So if somebody has or is befallen by, suffers from a headache after sex, and he also has a repletion, so he has too many superfluities or something like that, so يجب أن يبدأ بالفست. One has to first resort to venesection or bloodletting. ثم بالإسهال, and then you should use purging in وجب كل واحد منهما. For both of them, I mean, like bloodletting and purging are necessary.
A lot of the stuff in here sounds like nonsense, of course, because this is not modern medicine.
No, it's not.
So how long was this taken seriously?
Well, the fundamental ideas contained here about how the body works, I mean, they hadn't changed until the early 19th century. I mean, there was progress, obviously, on certain levels, but the essence was the same. And then came the big break with the discovery of bacteria and viruses and things like that. And from the second half of the 19th century onwards, medicine was totally revolutionized.
Ibn Sina's canon of medicine is a landmark in the history of the subject. Although much of the medical science it espouses we know now to be terribly misguided, its value lies in accumulating the best knowledge in the world at the time into one accessible, organized text. The canon would give future generations something to rewrite.
Cataloguing the world's medical knowledge has clear and obvious benefits. But the Islamic Empire's obsession to uncover the knowledge of the ancients went beyond practical matters like medicine. Many, like the Caliph al-Ma'mun, believed that the people of antiquity possessed dark, even magical powers. And what's more, new evidence is coming to light to show just how hard Islamic scientists worked to rediscover them.
To find out about that story, I have to visit the harsh burnt yellow of the Sahara Desert in Egypt. There I am to meet an academic who wants to show me how the translation movement took the Arabs to Egypt on a quest to break a code, which they thought hid the secret of the dark art of alchemy. This is Saqqara, a necropolis or graveyard of the ancient pharaohs. Over a 10-acre site, it's a collection of burial chambers and step pyramids that were built in the 3rd millennium before Christ. These are said to be among the oldest stone buildings in the world.
Want to sit here?
Archaeologist Dr. Okasha Al-Dali is my guide. he was about to reveal the most astonishing story of my journey so far.
Look at that.
Like most people, I believed that Egyptian hieroglyphs had remained completely undeciphered until the 19th century. Then came the chance discovery of the famous Rosetta Stone. This stone had the same inscription